Hey, greetings everyone. It is GleeCon, and I'm back again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. On our last one, we started off my experiment where I do one of the chunks as a mini chunk, and it's going to get broken down into a few pieces. So we took Eritor. On camera, he did the last of his Paladin quest. He got a shiny new hammer. It looks pretty cool. And then he also got, he did a quest. I think he killed a Knoll pack leader. Like, I don't remember which one. There's a couple you have to kill. He did the one closer to Lakeshire, or Lakeshire. I don't know. Off camera, I then did two other quests, which I will break up and do those over two other characters so that they all get some love. We've also been reading the final Dungeons and Dragons book, source material for the World of Warcraft role-playing game called Dark Factions. We finished the second chapter last time, which gave us, I think it gave us a bunch of new racial options and some things that are associated with that, archetypes and feats and stuff. So stay a while and listen as we go into the third class. This will be our final chunk of prestige classes for this game. So the last class type stuff. It's a pretty nice, pretty big size chapter. It comprises more than 10% of the entire book, but it's probably pretty stat block heavy, so it'll go a little fast for us, at least compared to how big it is. All right, so it says bring Pandemonium. It makes new prestige classes. They are particularly appropriate for the things brought up in this book, but hey, anybody could try them out if you could make it work. So we're going to bring up the Brewmaster. Obviously, this must be a prestige class for a Pandaren monk or war dancer or whatever. The Pandaren are an old and refined culture with many traditions and arts important to their way of life, perhaps none influencing the Pandaren so thoroughly as the art of brewing. Scholars believe that drink influences every aspect of Pandaren life, and because of the craft involved, a tradition of brewing potent fluids is a cultural institution for the gentle people of Pandaria. I think that's just a funny little wrinkle that they've added on. They've done all this stuff. It's clearly very based in Chinese culture. It's got all of that vibe. There are monks. There's a fighting style that goes on. And then they're just going to throw in, like, these guys really love beer and they love to make it. Pandaren brewmasters travel the world for new and exotic ingredients and recipes. These affable yet deadly warriors practice a unique combination of healing arts and martial skill. With their knowledge of alchemy, potion making, and brewery, Pandaren create superb ales and liquors that are welcome at any adventurer's table, either before or after a battle. Brewmasters practice a unique fighting style. They combine typical Pandaren finesse and strength with the appearance of being drunk, stumbling apparently at random. Okay, I guess if you're going to make it like drunken style boxing, then that's where this comes from. When they sway to avoid a blow or swing a wild fist, their proficiency appears accidental. While the path of the Brewmaster might be learned by any race, the Pandaren keep the craft of the Brewmaster a closely guarded secret. Ancient ways and methods of brewing result in a potent ability to craft traditional Pandaren brews. Pandaren are reluctant to share the secrets of this craft, though a Brewmaster might take the most disciplined and spiritual of individuals under his wing. Those who do take the path of the Brewmaster are typically Pandaren, and show allegiance only to the ways of their craft. While brewing is a mystical art, as the Pandaren say, good drink shows no bad faces, and anyone who seeks out a brewmaster is likely to find him willing to provide a draft or two in exchange for coin. So they do have like the small, like on the lower side of hit die, more like a monk. They are neutral. Looks like they have a good base attack bonus, but because they're prestige class, they use simple weapons, light armor. They have knowledge of brews. They can do a flurry of blows technique. Makes sense. This is a picture of one like where he's drinking. That's pretty cool. And it makes you think of those old, if you watch some of the, I mean, sure, you can watch like newer Jackie Chan versions. Watch some of the older like martial arts black and white movies, some Kurosawa, and you'll see some cool examples of drunken style, among other things. Unarmed strike, typically, so these guys are very similar to a monk. They have a drunken stance, which you pick, I guess, some specializations. You can have a drunken fist. It looks like what we're seeing. You can have a drunken defense. This is the Brewmaster stat progression. They can take up to 10 levels in Brewmaster. A drunken deception. That's cool. They're pretending to be drunk and they trick people. They have an uncanny dodge, of course. So very similar to a monk style, but just with some sort of other things rolled in. And considering we haven't seen monk as a class, this is going to be your basic best opportunity to play a monk style in this. Now monk is a regular, just normal class that you can pick in Dungeons and Dragons. So this could be like a something that you kind of mix on that if you use a newer form. Channel fire. They wreathe themselves in flame. Wow, that's a little like Tiananmen Square. And that their unarmed strikes do extra fire damage. They can also channel thunder, which makes them faster and gives them lightning resistance. They can channel wind, making them faster, and they can channel water to be better at healing, and channel metal, which gives them damage reduction. They, of course, can do the standard Pandaren move, the Breath of Fire, and then improved Breath of Fire as they level up. Cool. Death Knights. This, I guess this is no longer a prestige class either, but this would have to be from the World of Warcraft perspective now. This is just a class anybody can pick up from the beginning. Even the most honorable warriors can fall prey to the temptations of the Lich King. Some who devote themselves to his cause become the horrors known as Death Knights, elite members of the Scourge who lead the Lich King's armies. Neither their personalities nor their skills are lost, but their souls belong to the Lich King. Becoming a Death Knight does not ironically enough involve actually dying, thus most Death Knights resemble their living selves, though pale and with an unholy light that illumines their malefic eyes. I did not know that. I thought they were dead. However, as powerful and valuable agents of the Scourge, Death Knights are not freed from service to the Lich King when they die. They're simply raised into undeath to continue their grim work. As a result, the occasional Death Knight is undead and more closely resembles a zombie or skeleton with rotting skin and protruding bones. That would, I guess, explain Forsaken Death Knights. Death Knights, despite their evil natures, remain true to a code of honor, or at least to a semblance of order and discipline, but only in the strictest sense. In combat, for example, Death Knights might abide by the rules of warfare, even though in all other respects they're ruthless and cruel combatants. Death Knights are elite servants of the Scourge. Few Death Knights exist, but they are all fearsome individuals, brutal people who willingly pledge their souls in service to the Lich King. All good creatures fear their bloody rune blades. Most Death Knights are fallen Knights of the Silver Hand brought to their knees by their failure to do anything to stop the plague and save Lordaeron from the Lich King's depredations. These once noble warriors have allowed bitterness and defeat to overcome them and propel their souls toward damnation. The occasional member of another class has a will strong enough to make a deal with the Lich King and also become a Death Knight, but these Death Knights are exceedingly rare. Well, now they're exceedingly common. Regardless of their class, all Death Knights embrace the honor of their new status. So they have the typical like warrior hit die. That's a picture of one. They do have to become evil. Again, that's no longer the case. They have an unholy strike. Of course, they can wear full knight regalia in terms of their proficiencies. It says when they increase their rune blade in power, they can choose magical properties that go along with their rune blade. So basically, as they level up, they can also level up their vampiric rune blade. So it gains levels kind of as they gain levels. That's pretty cool. And this is their unholy, the Death Knights level up stuff. And this is basically saying, yeah, the undead Death Knights are similar to Forsaken. They have the vampiric rune blade. They have undead minions. Makes sense that they can summon them. They have an alabaster skin, which gives them bonuses to natural armor. They have a dark grace, which helps them save against all types of saves. They can shoot the death coil that we know about. And they have a death pact, which I guess it doesn't really say. It's a spell-like ability, so it's like the spell. I don't remember exactly what death pact does. They are undying once they get high enough levels, so they gain all the benefits of being undead without being undead. That's cool. And I guess at their higher levels 8, 9, and 10, they just gain greater death coil, stronger alabaster skin, and yeah, just more and more and more. So I guess they're similar to a paladin because they have the unholy strike and stuff, spell-like abilities. That's cool. All right, the Dragon Sworn. I don't know, unless we're looking at this, the dragon himself is a Dragon Sworn playable character, or is it this tiny person who's swearing themselves to the dragon? Let's read and find out. For centuries, The great dragonflights have noted the potential of younger races. In a few select cases, they choose a creature of another race to be one of a select few, with the privilege of directly serving a dragon or an entire group of dragons. Such devotees dedicate their lives to the protection and service of their dragonflights and reap the benefits of the great knowledge and power that their draconic masters share. Rumors say that the first Dragonsworn were the forefathers of the dragon spawn race. This is, of course, just a rumor. Each dragonflight treats its Dragonsworn differently and grants them slightly different boons for their service. The patron dragon for a Dragonsworn of the Bronze Dragonflight might give a faithful disciple a relic from the War of the Ancients, whereas a Dragonsworn of Nefarian might be taught the basics of how to manipulate the deadly power of Shadow Flame. While these rewards might sound tempting, dragons live a long time and most of the flights barely notice the passing of years. It's possible for a servant to dedicate his life to a flight without any real notice or recognition, especially for the shorter-lived races such as humans. The legends tell that while these Dragonsworn were always extremely rare, they may have been more common in the past, but there is a large gap in the records where such disciples are practically unheard of. It is the Green Dragonflight that revived the tradition of bringing allies of other races into their ranks, and a few of the other flights seem to have followed suit. Regardless of which flight was the first to resume adopting humanoid followers, dragons take more and more Dragonsworn into their service. In some cases, the reasons are obvious, but it remains a mystery why certain flights, such as the Blue, would begin to trust other races now. Traditionally, the most well-known Dragonsworn are druids in service of Ysera. That is not to say that all druids who walked the Emerald Dream were chosen to serve the Green Dragonflight, but many were taken into Ysera's service in the thousands of years they slept. Most of the typical servants of each flight have an occupation that matches the interests of the flight. Blue dragons favor talented magi, but a trustworthy priest or paladin might also gain their interest. Of course, some people are chosen simply for their dedication. While the Bronze Dragonflight may not have any particular tie to a warrior, he might impress with his strength and loyalty. All potential Dragonsworn show some magical proclivity, though. Okay. Night Elves were the most common Dragonsworn in the past due to their immortality. In fact, this immortality actually allowed some elves to outlive their draconic teachers. Some Night Elves were highly respected by the Dragonflights they served. Though lifelong loyalty was once the quality dragons valued most, now the Black Dragonflight looks for adventurers who show potential for great power. Perhaps it hopes to bring the next Medivh into its ranks. The other flights fear that a traitor entrusted with their secrets could be an unparalleled danger, but nevertheless a few dragons have begun teaching the younger races. However, few adventurers are willing to make the sacrifices necessary to earn the trust of an entire flight. More Dragonsworn are in the Alliance than the Horde, primarily because Night Elves are still the most common Dragonsworn of the flights other than the Black, but also because most Red Dragons won't have anything to do with Orcs after the Second War. Most disciples of the Dragonflights aren't affiliated with either faction, but a few belong to other organizations such as the Argent Dawn or Cenarian Circle. Dragonsworn serve as the eyes and ears of the Dragonflights in locations dragons may not wish to travel, and some infiltrate other groups to gather information. Since the average adventurer probably doesn't even know that these people exist, most Dragonsworn find it easy to keep their service a secret, knowing that many would not understand their dedication. While Night Elves, Magi, and others with knowledge of the Dragonflights may see an association with dragons as positive, warriors who fought against the Red Flight in the Second War probably would not. Some Dragonsworn might seek to teach others about the ways of the dragons to dispel the hatred of those who lost family and friends to Blacks or Reds, but most prefer to lie low and keep to themselves. A devotee of the aspects might join a group of adventurers to better serve her flight, perhaps to find a magic object, or just learn more about the world. In such a situation, knowledge is the greatest weapon. She may learn secrets and magic unknown to the rest of the world. And their hit die are low, again, because they say they're more like magic users. Any alignment, but typically in alignment with the flight that they serve. They have to be able to cast spells. They gain extra spell slots because, again, this is a prestige class, so they basically can continue developing as a spellcaster. They learn the secrets of the aspect, and they choose what order they get them. Ancient magic. I don't know what that... They get to choose from any spell list instead of just the one. That's a common skill they give to a lot of prestige classes. Eldritch knowledge, which gives them a big bonus to one type of knowledge. They used to have that broken down, like knowledge history, knowledge local. They don't do that anymore in D&D. Enhanced senses. They gain blind sight, and they gain a spell attunement. So they basically gain an additional ability, like their extra DC or chance to hit. and training of the dragonflights, they get another +2 to one of their ability scores. Power of the aspects is they get to choose 2 of these. They can gain a breath weapon. They can gain draconic claws. They can gain scales of the protector, wings of the aspect. So they basically become Drakthir. And this is their level stat block. Okay. The High Divinist. 420, bro. These look like it's a Naga, a female Naga prestige class. High Divinists are elite divine spellcasters, or divinists. Every priest desires to attain the title of High Divinist. To reach this level of magical understanding is to, in a small way, transcend mortal existence. As they gain power, divine spellcasters gradually see more and more of the fundamental nature of their magic. They cast greater spells that draw upon more intense facets of their faith. Such understanding comes to all priests eventually, but some move beyond these tokens to true revelation. These are the High Divinists, living icons of the entities or beliefs they represent. As the Archmagi of the Kirin Tor are to Magi, so High Divinists are to priests. They give up some of their spellcasting potential to unlock esoteric secrets of their magic and other powers. Their foes approach them with wariness, for while they may be able to predict the actions of a normal priest, a High Divinist possesses unknown abilities. High Divinists command respect or fear wherever they tread. They're the most direct conduits the mortal races have to the divine. Not sure which I like more, but I think Divinist kind of flows a little better. Many priests who become High Divinists call themselves High Priests. However, they may not take titles at all, allowing their power to speak for itself. While they are divine analogues to Archmagi, unlike their arcane counterparts, all High Divinists do not belong to a single organization like the Kirin Tor. Rather, each faith usually maintains its own cadre of High Divinists. Night Elves boast High Priestesses of Elune, and Great Human Healers become High Priests of the Holy Light. Other races also become High Divinists, of course, and the entities that command their reverence and the powers they wield are much darker. Naga High Priestesses of the Tides are frightening and powerful creatures of corrupt magnificence, and frothing Atalai High Divinists spill hot blood in the name of Hakar the Soul Flayer. In adventuring parties, High Divinists continue to serve in the same roles they filled before. Their spellcasting ability remains powerful and important, but their unique abilities add something new to the party's combined efforts. Spirit remains the most important ability for High Divinists. So they have a D8, which is a typical Divine Caster hit die. Says they can druids, shaman, and witch doctors. You could hypothetically make a High Divinist version of them, and they say how to tweak to do that. They continue to gain spell slots. They gain a revelation. They permanently eliminate one of their spell slots in order to gain these powers. They can have divine reach, which allows them to use their touch spells as ranged spells. They can have a master domain. They get to choose greater access to one of their domains, and so I guess there used to be kind of master powers. Essentially, they will gain. They're sacrificing a spell slot to gain the final domain power for one other domain other than their main domain. Mastery of channeling. Okay, so they get a baked-in free amount of turning and controlling undead each day. Mastery of turning and rebuking. They're better at turning and rebuking. And transfer power. It allows them to temporarily transfer their divine spellcasting power onto some other creature. That's kind of cool. And here are the master domain powers. They have, if you choose the ancestor domain, they can get a surge of the ancestor, which gives them for 1 round plus 20 to all of their rolls. That's pretty cool. Animal domain allows you to, anytime an animal comes within 30 feet of you, you essentially get to make a free roll to control it. Arcane domain gives them magic blood, which lets them get a free spell-like ability. Which is, I feel like that's dumb. Like, why would I trade a 7th level spell slot to gain a 7th level spell-like ability? that I can use once per day. Other than the fact that it lets you pick it from a different spell list. Crusader Domain gives bend will, like you can dominate. You basically get to, um, so you get to learn all of charm, monster, charm, person, yada yada yada. And when you use them with +4. Death Domain, you gain a death strike. Okay, so 3 times per day you can use like a lesser touch of death, and if you hit them and it reduces them to 0 hit points, they officially die. They're not just like fallen or whatever. Destruction gets greater nuke. You get to, so I guess normally there's a nuke power that I'm guessing is self-destructive, and this allows you to not do self-destructive, and it buffs the nuke. Elemental Domain, an aura of elemental fury. So you're constantly surrounded by the element of your choice, which does damage to people who enter it. Foretelling Domain, adaptive magic. You can pick a spell, and it can be below your spell level, and once per day you can cast it. Once per day you can cast any spell. Yeah, I feel like, again, that's Foretelling Domain. Healing Domain is aura of healing. You slowly, anyone around you has regeneration 2 hit points per round. Madness Domain, succumb to insanity. You succumb to insanity, giving you huge buffs to all of your stats. But you behave erratically, like you will just attack anyone within range. So I guess you could use that like a nuking of yourself. Throw yourself in the midst of enemies and then just go crazy. I mean, that'd be kind of fun to roleplay. Power Domain, heroic energy. You can get a hero point, which if that's how it is now, that legendary points or whatever, like you can just use it to get a free action. Normally you get them from role-playing nowadays, but I guess here you would get it from this power. Protection Domain, you have a protective ward. Oh, one person's invincible for a round. Spirit Domain, join the spirits. You can become incorporeal. War Domain, you're a weapon master, so you gain improved crit, weapon specs, greater weapon focused with whoever your favorite weapon is. And Wild, you get Wild Puissance. When you become an animal, you are super buffed up. All right, cool. All right, another Naga prestige class. This one looks to be solely Naga. It's called the Naga Anomaly. Naga are a testament to the power of arcane energy gone awry. Once beautiful Kalderae, a curse warped them into the Naga. As they were permanently altered, so was the world. The Well of Eternity imploded and brought the surrounding land crashing to the seafloor. While the well was destroyed, its power was not. It left behind residual energies that wrought changes on the newly born Naga. The mutations these energies bring do not manifest the same way in all Naga. While they share many characteristics, each Naga develops different mutations. Often these mutations are cosmetic. A Naga might have soft spines sprouting from his shoulders, or swirls of indigo in his skin. In some Naga, the mutations prove useful. Some grow to monstrous size, while others are infused with spellcasting power. These mutations are fairly common among Naga. Indeed, many Naga women are born with 4 arms. In some Naga, the residual power wreaks even greater changes. Some Naga are barely recognizable as related to their cousins. They may grow enormous, unable to enter normal Naga buildings. Often their powers are reminiscent of the sea creatures with which they dwell. Some sprout squid-like tentacles that can foil their enemies with clouds of ink. Others develop urchin-like spines tipped with deadly poison. These are Naga anomalies and are some of the strangest creatures in an already strange race. Few anomalies are alike, and as they grow and develop their powers, they diverge even more. Occasionally their mutations prove fatal for them, but more often they prove fatal for their enemies. The arcane energy in the rift magnifies existing traits and grants additional powers that play to a creature's strengths or minimize its weaknesses. It doesn't often kill those close to it. Obviously, all Naga anomalies are Naga. Most feel closer tied to Naga culture and their Queen Azara than other Naga, so they're more fanatical. Seeing their mutations as proof that the Naga are indeed destined to be the dominant race on Azeroth. They serve willingly and well, and and often their mutations provide unpredictable abilities that prove useful for far-flung missions or surprising the enemy on the battlefield. Anomaly's exact role varies by his mutations. Some excel at soaking up damage in the front lines, absorbing the enemy's attention to protect their more fragile compatriots, like taunting tanks. Others crush opponents with brute strength or a variety of natural weaponry. Some move with surpassing speed, striking and darting like piranhas that tear out throats and eviscerate torsos. The Naga's enemies fear Naga anomalies, for they are wild cards. Their allies know their capabilities, but their enemies rarely do. An enterprising member of the Explorers League, Hugh Deepstone, specializes in strange and exotic creatures. The Naga intrigue him especially as they are all mutants, and Naga anomalies hold great interest for him. Hugh started a catalog of known Naga anomalies in order to keep track of their capabilities and share this information with the rest of the Explorers League. No one's seen Hugh for several months, however, and the last anyone heard, his catalog was up to 3 listings. Other Naga feel positively toward anomalies. They also see them, that's a weird aside, as signs of the Naga's destiny. As the great mutations continue, perhaps one day all Naga will be excellent at everything, becoming the perfect species. Naga anomalies also are useful allies no matter what their abilities. So they're a D8 hit die. And again, this is all focused on their mutations. They can take an aquatic shape. They polymorph into even more aquatic. They can gain a battle insight, which just makes them better at fighting. They can gain Echo of the Octopus, which gives them the ink that we just read about, and opportunity attacks with tentacles. They're better in the water. Oh no, that's not the tentacles. Gripping tentacles is a separate one. Insightful skill makes them smarter and get additional skill proficiency bonus. Monstrous growth, mutant agility, mutant charisma, mutant fortitude, mutant intellect, mutant reflexes, mutant robustness, more their hit dice changes to the big boys, mutant spirit, mutant stamina, mutant strength, mutant will, size reduction, so they shrink, spell-like abilities, a spine blast, so they're shooting their spikes out of their back. And basically, you can take up to 10 levels in this prestige class, and they just keep gaining mutations every level. Potent spine, so more poison, strong tentacles, extra strength on their tentacle attacks. Other tentacles, so different than gripping tentacles, they can just grow tentacles. And urchin spines, so when people hit them, they take damage. So this one's just all about giving tons of mutations onto the Naga, which I guess that would be pretty fun. All right, we have another Pandaren class, prestige class, the Pandaren Transcendent. Tales say that spirits and energies are at work in the cosmos, spirits and energy that define the essence of reality. And from these vital sources, all things are formed. This is one of the central philosophies of Pandaren geomancy, and no one is more intimate with these energies than the Pandaren Transcendent. All right, so this is a geomancer prestige class. Seeking to embody the sentient, formative powers of the universe and bottle them within her form, the Transcendent is an aesthete, a warrior, and most of all, a mystic. Few Pandaren healers and wise men seek out this path. Even powerful geomancers rarely learn of the necessary hidden techniques to transform into beings composed of primal forces. Codified within ancient texts and layered within the rituals of Pandaren culture are the keys to the hidden discipline. Yet only the wisest and most insightful Pandaren discover it. Pandaren revere transcendence as embodiments of wisdom, the spirit of the universe made flesh residing in the shell of a Pandaren host. These are the Pandaren's ultimate heroes, spiritual avatars capable of summoning vast storms of lightning, smashing mountains with their terrible fists, and breathing winds into existence. Yet the techniques do not come without sacrifice. Pandaren Transcendents are sworn to protect the Pandaren people. Anyone seeking to bring war to the Pandaren would soon find themselves at the mercy of the Transcendent's wrath. Look, he's got like rock skin. That's cool. It's like Avatar. And a devastating whirl of blades and magic. Yeah, that's like wind, fire, earth. By your powers combined. Captain Panda. The Pandaren who discovered this path do so only after years of study and experience. Although only a handful of Pandaren alive today travel the path of the Transcendent, they all protect their people and swear no loyalty other than to serve the Pandaren and the spirits of their people. Pandaren Transcendents spend much of their time in seclusion in the Pandaren Empire. Those who venture beyond its shores are dedicated to rooting out secrets, defending the nation, and building relations with those few who would prove to be useful allies. Those who remain in Pandaria are often secluded hermits who protect a given section of the Empire, defending it from potential attack by angry elementals, divine spirits, and other threats that most of Azeroth's people cannot understand. These transcendents often counsel geomancers and other Pandaren of note, serving to temper all of the decisions of Pandaria's rulers with wisdom and spirituality. Only Pandaren can be this. They have to be lawful, but they could be evil. They have no weapons that they use, so that's interesting. They gain spell slots, but not every time, so their regular spellcasting slows. They get a Transcendent Fist, so they make a touch attack. Boom. They have the Transcendent Path, where they pick these different abilities you choose. You get to pick 4 over time. You can channel Earth, so you're Earthbending, channel Fire, channel Thunder, channel Water. So channeling Earth gives you damage resistance. Fire adds the flame to your touch. Thunder gives you initiative and Lightning Guardians. Channel Water buffs your healing. Channel Wind gives it deflection bonus and extra speed. They also get a Transcendent Body, so if you've chosen, you choose to channel the elements in this way as well. So Earth gives you damage reduction. Fire heals you, the healing power of fire. Oh, fire heals you. It gives you like fire absorption. Channel Thunder, same thing, electricity absorption. Channel Water, spell-like ability to heal. And Channel Wind gives you an extra attack. Okay, that's actually pretty cool. All right, now there's the Subversive class. They just hang out on like 4chan all day. Subversives are militant defenders of the wild who use guerrilla tactics and sabotage to safeguard the land. While their methods may be morally questionable, subversives dedicate their lives to defending nature and its inhabitants. They believe that Azeroth's welfare and survival depend on the state of the wilderness and the creatures populating it. When nature is destabilized, everything in the world is thrown into anarchy, and everyone suffers. Recent history strengthens this belief, as many men and women are already closely tied to nature, such as druids, hunters, and scouts, bore witness to the havoc magic and warfare bring. Although subversives have existed for a long time, they're now more convinced than ever that their cause is essential to the future, and that the path they walk is the only one worth traveling. Because of their unwavering conviction, subversives strive to defend the fragile balance of nature and protect animals, plants, magical beasts, and other creatures that live in the wilderness. Subversives do anything to reach that goal. A subversive spends most of his time in the wild, honing his knowledge of nature and survival skills, and testing his mettle against anyone who would harm nature. Subversives are great trackers and survival experts. They're also competent combatants who take full advantage of terrain and positioning when engaged in battle. They often use guerrilla tactics, striking at their enemies when they least expect it. Furthermore, subversives know how to build a variety of dangerous magical traps using natural materials they collect in the wild. These skills, combined with their unwavering dedication, make subversives dangerous opponents. So maybe this is like a scout prestige. Subversives spend most of their time in the wilderness and seldom travel to towns, fortresses, or similar settlements, preferring instead to remain close to nature. When they need to journey to a humanoid settlement, they take short trips and stay no longer than necessary. Almost everyone shuns subversives due to their violent and cruel natures, so subversives know not to overstay their welcome. Though they may not always agree with their tactics or morals, druids, hunters, and scouts view subversives as dedicated members of society. Some may even see subversives as necessary. Those who respect nature hold subversives' ideals in some esteem, though many despise their tactics. The Earthen Ring and the Cenarian Circle disapprove of subversives, and most subversives are loners. Although subversives do not presume to know everything, they believe that the cause they defend is righteous. They often seem more concerned about the well-being of plant and animal life than about the safety of their compatriots. In truth, however, this is rarely the case. Subversives are determined to save nature because they believe that doing so is the only way to protect the people who share the world with the creatures living in it. Scholars disagree on subversives' origins. Alliance sages believe that subversives developed ages ago in Night Elf society, though the Night Elves deny this assertion. Regardless of the race actually responsible for its development, the calling of the subversive is widely spread among both Night Elf and Tauren societies. Okay, so this is a druid class. as heroes from both races frequently come to the same conclusions and harbor the same desires to defend nature. Night elves and Taurens share their beliefs and knowledge with their allies, and today some humans and orcs can also learn the subversives' mysteries. Okay, so they have to be chaotic. Makes sense if they're subversive. They continue to gain skills. They have traps. They have a wild empathy, which allows them to sort of make animals like them more. They have a defensive positioning. So long as they're out in the wild, they get extra armor bonus. They have a nature's snare, so they basically can use mundane objects to make a snare outside of their other traps that they can make. And they spend a long time describing how to build that snare. Cool, we have a flavor text. Yeah, that's a big part. They also have so this is if you wanted to make a druid that focused on traps, they have a terror trap. Huh. Any creature that's not an animal that gets trapped in it gets suffered, like, horrified. They have an acidic trap, an immolation trap, a green life strike. DC 38. The DCs are different now. That's crazy. A DC 38 would be crazy. It makes the ground come alive, so it's like entangling and are getting attacked by the plant life there. So it only works like in nature. All right, let's read an excerpt from the personal diary of Kenry the Robber. We walked into the Tauren's trap. Our party was hunting one of the fiends who had attacked our camp. The jungle troll and his comrades had killed 3 of us before we had time to gather our wits. The enemy had been cunning and stealthy, approaching our encampment in secret. Our sentries were deceived. You just can't trust anybody these days. That's what you get for being a bandit. We were 3 times their number, so we overcame the hunting party that attacked us once they lost the advantage of surprise. Still, 4 members of my band perished before we dismantled the small but efficient force that stormed us that night. Unfortunately, their leader escaped. I pursued and led some of my best fighters against the enemy who had, presumably in the name of revenge, killed many members of my band. We followed the troll's tracks for the better part of an hour. Even at night, he was an easy follow with all the crushed saplings and blood he left behind him. I should have suspected something was wrong. Things were too easy, but in my fury and haste, I hurried the others. Marka, my second in command, triggered the first trap. The burst of acid scorched her flesh, scarring her face. She was still cursing when I heard a strident cry. I turned to see one of my fighters running in fear, his eyes darting in every direction. I could almost taste the magic that took hold of him. I shouted for a halt, but it was too late. The troll had been waiting for us, and he had company. A Tauren wearing tattered leather clothes and holding a massive weapon resembling a tree trunk appeared. My fighters reacted instantly, moving toward them. I shouted again, reaffirming my order to stand their ground, but bandits are not the most disciplined lot. The two walked into other traps, their skin burnt with acid. Marka cried out a warning as she fired arrows at the troll, but our group was in disarray. The troll hid behind a wide tree and threw javelins, while the Tauren weaved a spell that changed the surrounding vegetation. A massive wall filled with thick vines and thorns appeared before us. Marka issued another curse and fired one last arrow in vain. A moment later, everything was quiet, save for the sound of our own breathing. We had lost sight of the troll and his Tauren ally. Furious, Marka insisted that we pursue them, but despite her best efforts, she found no trace of our ambushers. It was as though the force had swallowed them. I knew better than to venture deeper into the wilderness. Only the spirits of the place knew how many more traps the Tauren had laid. They also gain, that's obviously about the subversive, beastly sight, so they can see better, low light vision. They have a gorilla strike, so they add their, it says when they're in a natural environment, basically they are mega good at hitting. And even if they're being flanked, they still gain it. They have a wild sight, which they eventually develop into dark vision. And they have a specific spell list, nature type stuff. All right. The Scarlet Battle Mage. While most associate the Scarlet Crusade with the decline of the Knights of the Silver Hand, members of the organization come from many different backgrounds. The Scarlet Crusade includes former members of the Kirin Tor and other arcane spellcasters. Battle Magi are some of the deadliest members of the Scarlet Crusade. Their knowledge of arcane magic is tempered with zeal and training in martial arms. In combat, powerful battle magi might charge into a unit of scourge creatures and lay it to waste with incendiary magic, and then obliterate any survivors with ordinary or enchanted steel. Battle magi are among the rarest of their order and are highly respected. The overwhelming majority of battle magi are trained in Tyr's Hand and the newly founded Scarlet Monastery, and then sent to the locations where they are most needed. While the Scarlet Crusade opposes both the Forsaken and the Scourge, battle magi are typically assigned to deal with the latter, since the Scourge is considered more dangerous. Since normal spells and swords are typically ineffective against the stronger members of the Scourge, Scarlet battle magi focus their studies on fire magic. While most of their spells are designed to destroy large groups of weak monsters, battle magi also learn to empower their weapons, knowing that situations arise where ranged magic might fail. Overall, Scarlet battle magi are versatile, and that quality makes them feared by their enemies and the rest of the world. Like all members of the Scarlet Crusade, Scarlet battle magi are humans. Most began their careers as magi. Magi? Magi. I've always said magi. I don't care. As members of the Scarlet Crusade, and typically among the most zealous members of the organization, battle magi are unpopular among the educated members of the Alliance. A battle mage who flaunts her title is likely to be considered insane and turned away by any adventuring party. Many battle magi know this well enough to conceal their identities. Some battle magi despise or disdain the rest of the world and travel only with other members of their organization. When a battle mage participates in an adventuring group, she often takes a leadership or frontline role in spite of the tendency of most spellcasters to do the opposite. Battle magi have a reputation for fearlessly charging into battle, a reputation that is not always remembered in a positive light. Like they're pulling, DPS pulling instead of the tank. Battle magi deal with their targets quickly, using instantaneous spells to eliminate weak opponents immediately. Their spells and reflexes are impressive, which may ensure the battle mages stay within an adventuring group, even if she's not entirely trusted. So it says they have to be part of the Scarlet Crusade, but could eventually defect. They have to be human because of that xenophobic Scarlet Crusade tendency. That might be a battle magi. That's kind of cool with their flaming swords. They also have to be. You have to use martial weapons. That's cool. They don't gain anything new because they have to come with that martial weapon feat. They do continue to gain spell slots. They have pyromancy. Every 4 levels, they do extra damage with their fire magic. So, per hit die. Wow, so they do a lot. They have an avenging blade, like per hit die. So like a fireball, which normally does say 86 damage. If they're level 8, they would get +2 per hit die, so they get +16 damage on a fireball. That's pretty impressive. Avenging blade. They blend the melee and magic as a swift action. So basically, as a free action, they can do a melee attack and then still cast spells. They have instant spells, so they get like a free meta magic feat to do quicken or mirror spells. So that's cool. It's easier for them to do that. It doesn't take up a higher spell slot. They gain fire resistance. They have blades of light. So 3 times a day they can light their blades of fire and do extra fire damage with their strikes. And then they have a righteous fire. It's a full ability that just makes everyone around them take a holy fire damage, like everyone within 100 feet. It's cool. All creatures and objects. So they can only do that once per day, but that's interesting. Like it's a nuke kind of. It hurts their allies too. So we didn't cover any Scarlet Crusader things in this book, but we did in the last one. So it looks like now they're coming back and giving those some prestige classes, either for a DM to play with, or if for whatever reason you wanted to have like a Scarlet Crusader campaign, whether within the Scarlet Crusade fighting whatever forces, or maybe a pack of defectors. So here's another Scarlet Crusade prestige class called the Scarlet Inquisitor. Inquisitors are the reason that even the dead have learned to fear the Scarlet Crusade. These former priests and healers, once dedicated to aiding the wounded, have turned their training in the Holy Light to a more devious end. torturing a captured subject without allowing the prisoner the luxury of death. For this reason, inquisitors are given high authority within their own organization and are feared by their own people as much as their enemies. In spite of their title, inquisitors do not always torture simply to extract information. Many enjoy inflicting pain, and that quality makes them dangerous in combat. Grand Inquisitor Isilian is one of the most influential figures in the Scarlet Crusade, and rumors say he handpicks the few others who are deemed worthy to bear the mantle of Inquisitor. High-ranking Inquisitors train pupils in the subtle art of manipulation as well as the destructive and fearsome arts for which Inquisitors are famous. It is the duty of the Inquisitor to transform a broken Knight of the Silver Hand into a loyal zealot of the Scarlet Crusade, such as High Lord Talon Fordring. Inquisitors are also responsible, which we read that in the manga, for detecting treachery in their own ranks. Hardly a day passes that the Crusaders do not find an infiltrator loyal to the cult of the damned. With the skill to judge a potential traitor comes the power of the executioner. Inquisitors have the right and the responsibility to deal with traitors. Betrayal is not limited to siding with the Scourge, of course. Disagreeing with Grand Crusader Dathraham might be grounds for elimination as well. The final responsibility of the Inquisitor is morale. In many ways, Inquisitors retain the role of normal priests, and they ensure the soldiers in their care remain in good spirits. In spite of the fear that even other members of the Scarlet Crusade feel toward Inquisitors, they retain the role of confessor, moral support, and other responsibilities that one might expect from a priest of the Church of the Holy Light. Scarlet Inquisitors are almost exclusively human priests, but a few paladins have the dedication and magical skill to follow this path. As high-ranking members of the Scarlet Crusade, individuals outside the organization look down on them even more than other Crusaders, and with justification. Even Inquisitors who are still sane have a level of zeal that the average person or adventuring party cannot tolerate. The Church of the Holy Light takes a stand against the Inquisitors' torture and other methods, but the Crusaders dismiss such accusations as naive. The Knights and Priests of Stormwind have not yet experienced the full force of the Scourge, and the Crusade believes that this lack of knowledge prevents them from being willing to use the necessary amount of force. The Scarlet Crusade's loyal knights and priests are convinced by their inquisitors that the Church will eventually see their way of life as necessary. Inquisitors see themselves as the voices of reason in a world clouded with deception. They burn through the lies of the world with the searing flame of truth. Most Inquisitors are self-confident, and a large number of them take leadership roles, such as High Inquisitor Whitemane in the Scarlet Monastery. On the rare occasions that an Inquisitor leaves an outpost to go adventuring, he functions much the same as he does within the organizations, as a leader and support for his group. Unlike many other members of the Scarlet Crusade, however, Inquisitors are cautious in combat and remain as far from melee as possible, using their magic to disorient their enemies or bless their allies with the power of the Holy Light. While Inquisitors are potent healers, this role is typically considered secondary to eliminating their targets or enhancing their allies' abilities. Okay, so they are the masters of pain. They gain a series of variations of healing spells that hurt undead, and can also hurt living. They can extract information, so they can use buffed up intimidation checks to torture information out of people. They have spontaneous casting. They can store spell energy and use it as only on like mind affecting spells like dominate person and stuff. They can create a scarlet barrier. They make fiery energy against anyone that hurts anyone that would attack them in melee. Okay, interesting. All right, and we have the final prestige class, the Vindicator. Let's look at this. It looks like a Dragonborn or whatever they're called. Not Dragonborn. That's regular D&D. Dragonsworn or whatever. While they may come from any race or culture, all Vindicators share one thing in common. They harbor an unwavering desire to bring retribution upon those they deem deserving of punishment. Vindicators, however, need to have personally witnessed or otherwise hold irrefutable proof of the wrongs they're trying to right. Fueled by a deep hatred, which usually comes from the loss of a loved one, the witnessing of a horrible crime or injustice, or sometimes great personal suffering experienced at some point in the past, Vindicators travel the world to punish those who have harmed others. Stern and humorless loners, Vindicators are not the easiest characters to befriend, but once they call someone a comrade, they go to great lengths to protect or avenge him. Driven by the need to bring what they call justice upon their enemies, Vindicators sometimes appear to be merciless zealots who would risk their lives and those of their friends to seek retribution. They may be intense and focused, but despite their ill-reputed and seldom understood ideas of what is right and wrong, Vindicators view themselves as indispensable tools of justice. Vindicators seldom respect society's laws, but are willing to work with whoever they need to complete their self-appointed task. Vindicators often take on the roles of vigilantes, imposing their unusual sense of justice on the people of their communities. While Vindicators may be rash, their actions are never evil, nor do they consider the act of seeking revenge especially cruel. After all, it's the right thing to do. Vindicators originate from the human societies of olden days. Traditionally, Vindicators remained close to their homelands to ensure that their special kind of justice was brought to their people's enemies. In ancient times, most Vindicators focused their attention on creatures and groups that threatened the well-being of their people or the environment in which they lived. Today, Vindicators roam the world to punish those who harm it. Sometimes fanatically righteous and perceived as perverted and cruel, Vindicators are misunderstood and mistrusted. Although Vindicators would argue otherwise, those who meet a Vindicator perceive the hatred that drives him as a force stronger than the individual who owns it. Thus, many people view Vindicators as eerie, zealous individuals who cannot control their emotions. Though it is true that Vindicators tolerate little frivolity, they draw strength from their inner rage and the power of their convictions. Those few individuals who call a Vindicator friend understand this and learn to respect those who are driven by this inner fire. Vindicators work best with people who share similar values. Most Vindicators are relentless defenders of whatever noble cause they adopt, and they go to great lengths to bring their special brand of retribution upon those whom they consider enemies of that cause. Vindicators who reside in towns and cities are thorns in the sides of those who live off crime. They target thieves, assassins, and slavers, as well as anyone who makes a living by taking advantage of others. Vindicators are a various lot, but regardless of their past, they are heroic characters, considered a blessing to those who are on their side, and a deadly threat to individuals to whom they deem deserving of their wrath. They get the typical melee combatant D10. They can put a hunter's mark on it, just like in both WoW and D&D. So that gives them extra proficiency bonuses to tracking them, and they're better at fighting them. They gain revenge. So if once per day, they can make an opportunity attack against anyone that hits them or their allies. So just like a free attack. They have silent seething. They can call upon their hatred to sort of enter like a berserker-like rage. That's interesting. But they don't gain... Oh, they do. It's just basically a berserker rage, but it makes them sort of mindless. They get an extra feat, like Bash, Concussive Shock, or Counter-Strike. They're fearless, so it's very hard to make them scared. And then they finally gain Counter-Strike as a bonus feat. And if they've already chosen it once, they gain Improved. So they're basically just good at countering. That's it. So next time is when we're going to discuss magic. The way that this has worked in the previous books is it's sort of a discussion as the relationship of magic with these things. But we've already covered that. So I'm a little curious as to how it's going to go. But it should be more lore focused than what we've been on. We're going to start slowly transitioning, because then I think 5 and 6 or 6 and 7, one of the two, we're getting close to where we really dive in and spend some time with the lore. All right, we have another episode in the pipe. 5x5, we did it. Thanks everyone for watching and listening, and I will see you next time on the next episode of Lore of Warcraft.